Administration Committee on the 2008-09 financial review of the State Services Commission be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary opinion, no. The ayes have it. Members, I understand the next financial review members wish to debate is the financial review of the Ministry of the Environment. Will members please turn to the Local Government and Environment Committee's report. The question is that the report of the Local Government and Environment Committee on the 2008-09 financial review of the Ministry of the Environment be noted.
Mr. Chair.
I call
Mr. Chair.
Catherine Delahunty.
I welcome this opportunity to speak about the appropriation bill on this issue, although I was not on the Local Government and Environment Select Committee. It's a committee that's incredibly important to the Green Party, and my colleague Sue Kedgley was a member of that committee. And as she said, and still is, and as she said, there was an issue discussed that I want to describe today, which instead of having a broad brush approach to a range of issues, I want to talk about the serious nature of cutting funding to what may seem to be an obscure issue. And last year, the Ministry for the Environment suffered a number of cuts because we were in a recession and because the government did not seem to have the same commitment to the Ministry of the Environment that we would like to have seen. And one of the cuts that was discussed at that select committee, which has had a serious effect, is the cuts to the Contaminated Sites Remediation Fund. Now, the Contaminated Sites Remediation Fund is a fund that's administered by the Ministry of the Environment to assist regional councils to investigate, plan and remediate contaminated sites in their regions. And it's an incredibly important fund because it seeks to assist communities and councils to clean up the mess that has never been addressed for many, many years with contaminated sites. And the Ministry for the Environment fund was cut from $5 million in 2008 to $1.78 million in 2009. Now, this might seem like very small beer, but in reality we need a lot more than $5 million to deal with the legacy of toxic sites across this country. And only this week, the Mapua community has had a very serious report into the ongoing health effects of a failure of the Ministry of the Environment to properly clean up a site at Mapua. So it was a very unfortunate thing that the government had decided to cut from $5 million, which barely covers several major contaminated site cleanups, if indeed it will cover those, to 1.78 for 2009 and 2010. So the Green Party is very concerned about this for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that we're in a context where councils have just been forced, thanks to a proactive journalist who went to the Ombudsman, to create registers of contaminated sites. And what we're hearing is it's not a matter of each region having just a few sites. It's a matter of many regions having hundreds of sites that need the assistance of the Ministry of the Environment to help clean them up. Now, you could argue that the polluter should pay, and in fact I will be arguing that through a liability bill, but right now it is the responsibility of the Ministry for the Environment to make sure that there is sufficient funding to assist communities to clean up. And so we see it as a very regrettable step that in the last financial year this funding was cut. Another reason why it's a bad time to have cut that funding is the government has not yet even finalised the soil standards for toxic sites. And so those standards are not even set, and those standards will set the real cost of clean-up, because until we know what the standards are, we do not know what those costs are. And what we can guarantee is that the clean-up of toxic sites is not getting cheaper. So what is the history of this issue in terms of MFE? It's important to recognise why I'm concerned about this cut in 2009, why I'm talking about this during a financial review, is because the Ministry for the Environment has serious responsibilities for a number of toxic sites around the country. There are hundreds of them. And for example, we have some information about the real costs of cleaning up contaminated sites. For example, the Waipa sawmill at Rotorua, which was contaminated by PCP, $28 million is still being spent over the next 35 years to try and treat the water that comes out of the sawmill, goes through the Puringa stream into Whakarewureu, where the children have died for money, and into Lake Rotorua. That is an ongoing cost of $28 million over 35. So clearly that's the kind of money we're talking about for one contaminated site. Another example is the Kopiopio Canal in Whakatane, which is estimated by the local people who have been very active to to look at a positive way of dealing with the issue, that 3 to 6 million is going to be needed to clean up this one canal. And this one canal is only one of 28 orphan sites around Whakatane that are going to need clean-up. Even if the successful trial, which is being worked on at the moment, even if the bioremediation model is successful. And the last one I want to refer to, of course, is Mapua. Mapua, the Ministry of Environment estimated it was going to cost $7 million to clean it up. The costs have since doubled and it's still a mess. Some clean-up took place, but the off-site impact of the experimental mechanism used to clean up Mapua has created more risks and thus more costs. The people of Mapua yesterday found out that there were many chemicals that they were exposed to at that site that were not monitored for, PCBs, dioxin, etc.